Colton, a middle-aged man with dark brown hair, sat in his office speaking with a client.
So, what aspect of your boss annoys you the most? As your therapist, I can't help you overcome your workplace troubles if you don't provide me with all the necessary information. The client sighed heavily before responding. There's a cashier I work with who is essentially the company bully. She berates everyone and yells at them if they don't do things her way. The ironic part is that she's not even the manager.
Have you discussed these concerns with your manager?
Yes, but she hasn't done anything about it. I even approached human resources, and they told me to develop thicker skin.
Well, Colton said,
I would recommend enduring the situation for now, but I also suggest that you start applying for other jobs immediately. Tolerate her for the time being, but don't stay there too long. Go to interviews, apply everywhere, get yourself out of that toxic environment.
Just then, a timer beeped.
Well, that's all the time we have for this session. Do you need a refill for your antidepressants before we finish? No, I think I'm okay. I have another 2 weeks worth left, and my next appointment is next week. I can ask for the refill then.
Colton jotted down some notes on his laptop.
Perfect. I'll email you a receipt along with the notes from this session so you'll have a copy. Have a great day.
As the client left the office, Colton gathered his things, preparing to head home after a long workday.
Daddy, can we play Uno tonight?
Colton smiled at his little girl.
Of course, honey. We'll play after dinner. Has your mom come home yet, or are you still with the nanny?
I'm going to start making dinner. We're having roast beef tonight. I'll let you know when it's ready. For now, go play with your dollhouse, and then we can enjoy some card games together after dinner.
As he walked up the stairs toward the master bedroom, Colton called out,
Emily!
Colton stepped into their bedroom. The room was filled with a soft, warm light. Emily sat on the edge of the bed. She looked up at him with a gentle smile.
Hey babe, how was your day?
He asked.
It was good.
She replied. Her smile seemed to make the room even brighter.
I did 8 massages at the clinic today. I just got home about half an hour ago.
Emily was a massage therapist. She loved her job and helping people feel better.
That's great.
Colton exclaimed. He was proud of Emily and her dedication.
I'm going to head downstairs and make roast beef for dinner now.
He turned to leave, eager to start cooking.
Wait, babe.
Colton turned back to face her.
This envelope came in the mail for you.
She said, holding up a white envelope. Colton walked back towards Emily. He took the envelope from her outstretched hand. The paper felt slightly thick and expensive. It's from my old high school, he murmured, examining the return address. With a quick rip, he opened the envelope. Inside, he found a beautifully designed invitation. It was an invitation to his high school reunion. Memories flashed before his eyes. Colton's heart skipped a beat. He had not thought about his high school days in years. Now, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. He remembered the laughter, the friendships, and the carefree days. He couldn't contain his excitement. Colton began dancing around the bedroom, the invitation still clutched in his hand. "I'm so excited!" he cheered. "I bet my old buddies Isic, Zach, and Kris will be there," Colton continued, his voice filled with anticipation. "I can't wait to see them." He thought about his old friends. It had been too long. As he read the invitation details, a slow smile spread across his face. The reunion was just a week away. He couldn't wait to catch up with everyone and reminisce about the good old days. Colton, still buzzing with excitement, made his way back downstairs to the kitchen. The aroma of roasting beef filled the air, but his mind was elsewhere. He was already mentally preparing for the reunion. He couldn't shake the feeling that this reunion was going to be something special. It was a chance to reconnect with his past and relive some of the best moments of his life. Colton smiled to himself. He couldn't wait. Over the next few days, Colton could hardly focus on anything else. The anticipation of the reunion had him buzzing with a nervous energy. He found himself daydreaming about his high school days, the laughter, the friendships, the awkward moments. He tried to concentrate on his work, but his mind kept wandering. He was a therapist, and he took pride in helping his patients. But lately, his own thoughts were too distracting. He found himself looking at the clock more often, counting down the hours until Friday night. At home, Emily noticed his distraction.
You seem distant. Is everything all right?
She said one evening, her hand gently resting on his arm. Colton looked at her, a sheepish smile on his face. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking about the reunion," he said.
It's okay to be excited. It's been a long time since you've seen those friends.
She knew how important they were to him. Colton nodded, a wave of warmth washing over him. He was grateful for her understanding. As the week progressed, Colton found himself digging through old photo albums. He laughed out loud at some of the pictures, cringing at others. He showed them to Emily, sharing stories and anecdotes from his past. There was a picture of him and his friends goofing off in the school cafeteria, another one of them playing football in the park. Each picture triggered a flood of memories, both big and small. Finally, Friday night arrived. Colton dressed with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He had chosen a simple outfit, wanting to look presentable but not overdressed. He looked at himself in the mirror, taking a deep breath.
This is it.
Downstairs, Emily was waiting for him. She had set the table for dinner, knowing he would be too excited to eat much. She smiled at him, her eyes full of love and support.
You look great. Go have fun.
Colton kissed her goodbye and practically ran out the door. He couldn't wait any longer. He got into his car and sped off into the night, the anticipation building with every mile. As he drove, familiar sights flashed by his window. The old movie theater where he and his friends used to hang out, the pizza place where they had celebrated countless victories, the park where they had spent countless afternoons. Each landmark brought back a rush of memories. He could almost hear the echoes of their laughter, their voices still young and carefree. It was like stepping back in time, each turn of the wheel taking him closer to his past. Finally, he arrived at the school. The parking lot was already filling up, and he could hear music and laughter spilling out from the open doors. He parked his car and took another deep breath, his heart beating faster now. He was ready to reconnect, reminisce, and relive the glory days. Ready to see how life had unfolded for the people he had shared such a formative part of his life with. This wasn't just a reunion. It was a journey back in time. Colton stepped out of his car and into the cool night air. The music from inside the school grew louder, a mix of familiar pop songs from their high school days. He smoothed down his shirt and made his way towards the entrance, a sense of nervous anticipation knotting in his stomach. As he approached the door, a familiar face came into view. It was Mrs. Jackson, his old history teacher. She hadn't aged a day, her smile as warm and welcoming as he remembered.
Colton, how wonderful to see you.
Mrs. Jackson exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with recognition.
Mrs. Jackson, it's great to see you too. You haven't changed a bit.
He meant it. Mrs. Jackson had always had a youthful energy about her, a passion for teaching that seemed to keep her young. "Oh, you flatter me," Mrs. Jackson chuckled, patting his arm lightly.
But tell me, Colton, what are you up to these days? Last I heard, you were headed off to become a therapist, is that right?
She had always taken a keen interest in her students' lives, even after they had left the hallowed halls of their high school.
That's right. I have a practice in town. It's been challenging, but incredibly rewarding. And I got married a few years back. Her name is Emily.
Married? That's wonderful news, Colton. I always knew you were a keeper. Well, don't just stand there. Go on in. There's plenty of food and drinks inside, and I'm sure you have a lot of catching up to do with old friends.
Colton thanked her and stepped into the school gymnasium. His senses immediately flooded with a rush of nostalgia. The room was decorated with balloons and streamers, but it was the scent of stale popcorn and cleaning supplies that truly transported him back to his high school days. He scanned the room, his eyes searching for familiar faces. And then he saw them. Isic, Zach, and Kris, huddled together in a corner, deep in conversation. They had changed, of course, the years etching lines on their faces and adding a touch of silver to their hair. But their eyes, their smiles, those hadn't changed a bit.
Hey guys.
Colton called out, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. They turned, their faces breaking out into wide grins as they recognized him.
Colton!
They shouted in unison, rushing towards him, engulfing him in a group hug that spoke volumes of their shared history. They spent the next hour catching up, their conversation a rapid-fire exchange of life updates, old jokes, and shared memories. Isic, always the brilliant one, had landed a job with some government agency, the details of which were understandably vague. Zach, the class clown, had surprised everyone by becoming a weatherman, his dry wit finding a perfect outlet in his on-air banter. And Kris, the quiet one with a love for the outdoors, had started his own landscaping business, his passion for nature blooming into a successful career. As the evening wore on, Colton felt a pang of disappointment. The reunion was fun, don't get him wrong, but it was also chaotic and loud. The sheer number of people making it difficult to truly connect with his friends. He found himself longing for the simplicity of their high school hangouts, the card games, the late-night talks, the easy camaraderie. And then it hit him. "Hey guys," Colton said, leaning in, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Are you free this weekend? We could go back to my place, play some cards, just like old times." The suggestion hung in the air, a spark of excitement igniting in their eyes.
Cards? Zach echoed, tilting his head. Like poker? It's been ages. He scratched his beard, a thoughtful frown creasing his forehead. I haven't played a decent hand since high school.
Me neither, Isic chimed in, a nostalgic smile playing on his lips. Remember those all-nighters we used to pull, playing Uno until the sun came up? His eyes twinkled with the memory.
Colton chuckled, nodding in agreement. "Those were the days," he sighed. "No worries, just endless games and bad jokes." He glanced at Kris, who had been unusually quiet. "What about you, Kris? Still up for a card game?"
Kris, who had been nursing his beer, looked up, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Count me in," he said, his voice surprisingly firm. "Nothing beats a good old-fashioned card game with friends."
So, Zach began, leaning forward, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. Tell us, Colton, what have you been up to all these years, besides becoming a therapist and all? He winked playfully.
Colton laughed, shaking his head. "Well, there's not much more to tell," he said, taking a sip of his beer. "Life's been good. Got married to the most amazing woman, Emily. And we adopted a little girl a couple of years back, Gabriella."
You got married? Zach exclaimed, his eyebrows shooting up in surprise. I never thought you'd be the settling down type, Colton. He chuckled, but there was a hint of genuine surprise in his voice.
Colton grinned, a warmth spreading through his chest.
"Yeah, well, life has a funny way of surprising you."
He said, pulling out his phone to show them a picture of Emily and Gabriella.
"And Gabriella, she's the absolute light of my life."
The others gathered around, their faces softening as they looked at the picture.
"She's adorable, Colton. Congratulations, man. You look happy."
"I am," Colton confirmed, beaming.
"Never thought I'd be saying this, but fatherhood suits me. Although Gabriella can be a real handful sometimes. She didn't even want me to leave for this reunion tonight."
Colton and his friends laughed together, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the phone screen. The conversation flowed easily, the years melting away as they shared stories, jokes, and the occasional embarrassing anecdote from their past. But as the night wore on, the noise and the crowd began to grate on Colton's nerves. He found himself longing for the intimacy of a smaller gathering, a place where they could truly relax and reconnect.
"So, what do you say? Are we still on for that card game this weekend? My place Saturday night?"
He looked at each of them in turn, his eyes hopeful.
"You know I'm in. This party's starting to feel a little too much like high school all over again."
Kris shuddered dramatically.
You said it, Kris. Count me in, Colton. A night of cards and conversation sounds like a much better plan than trying to make small talk with a bunch of strangers.
The group of friends left the crowded gymnasium, heading towards the exit. They were all smiling and talking amongst themselves, relieved to be escaping the noise and chaos. Isic nodded, a rare smile playing on his lips.
"Indeed. A night of reminiscing and perhaps a touch of healthy competition sounds rather appealing right now."
He adjusted his glasses, his eyes twinkling with anticipation.
"It's settled then. Let's get out of here."
As they made their way through the crowded gymnasium, the noise and the heat seemed to fade away, replaced by a sense of purpose and shared history. Colton felt a hand clap him on the shoulder and turned to see Kris grinning at him. "This is going to be just like old times," Kris said, his voice filled with a childlike enthusiasm that Colton hadn't heard in years.
"Remember those epic road trips we used to take? Blasting music, sharing snacks, arguing about the dumbest things."
And laughing until our sides hurt. Those were the days, my friend. Carefree and full of possibility. But hey, who says we can't recapture some of that magic tonight?
Colton smiled, his heart warming at his friend's words. As they piled into Zach's car, the familiar scent of old leather and air freshener filled his nostrils, transporting him back to their high school days. The drive to Colton's house was filled with laughter, shared memories, and the comforting sound of old friends catching up. They reminisced about their high school exploits, their dreams for the future, and the unexpected turns life had taken. Upon arriving at Colton's house, a cozy ranch-style home nestled in a quiet suburb, they were greeted by the warm glow of the porch light and the faint scent of freshly cut grass.
Welcome to my humble abode. Drinks are on the house, gentlemen. What'll it be?
As they settled into the living room, the familiar sights and sounds of Colton's home enveloping them like a warm embrace, Zach raised his glass in a toast.
To old friends, to time lost and time found, and to the memories we've shared and the ones we're about to make.
The four friends raised their glasses in a toast, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the living room light. A deck of cards sat on the table, ready for a night of laughter and friendly competition.
The next evening, Isic, Zach, Colton, and Kris gathered to play a game of Uno.
All right, the starting card is a yellow 7.
Draw 2, Colton declared, slapping a yellow draw 2 card onto the living room table. And so began the stacking frenzy.
Draw 4.
Draw 6.
Draw 8.
Colton grinned as he laid down a draw 4.
Draw 4, damn it!
Zach exclaimed, dramatically pulling 12 oversized cards from the deck.
Screw you, Colton. You always do this when we play.
Colton chuckled.
That's because you're terrible at this game.
The game continued for hours until an unexpected twist occurred.
Draw 68.
Isic instructed Kris. As Kris reached for the cards, the deck suddenly sprang to life, launching itself at him.
What the heck?
Kris shouted as cards cascaded down on top of him.
Did the deck just move on its own?
Wow, I think the deck is cursed.
Zach said, wide-eyed with astonishment.
Come on, you guys are overthinking it. There's no such thing as curses, ghosts, or spirits. It was probably just a draft.
I don't know, I've seen a ghost before. When my pet snake died in high school, I swear I've seen its ghost following me around. Always just a snake-shaped silhouette.
You're ridiculous. You two are just paranoid.
If it freaks you out that much, we're depth for the night. We can stop for the night. Do you want to stay over?
Colton offered. Isic, Zach, and Kris all agreed to spend the night, and Colton retrieved 3 sleeping bags from the hallway closet. He spread the bags out on the living room floor as his friends settled in.
I'll be upstairs if you need anything. The master bedroom is to the right of the stairs, and I'll be in there with my wife. My daughter's room is at the end of the hallway, so try not to disturb her.
Colton climbed the stairs and entered the master bedroom, where his wife was reading on the bed.
Hey, babe. I was just waiting for you. You know I have a hard time sleeping without you.
I know.
How was the game? I know you all haven't been able to play cards together in 20 years.
It was good, until those two started acting ridiculous, insisting the deck was cursed.
Emily laughed.
You never know, babe.
Shut up. There's no such thing as curses.
He turned off the bedroom light, climbed into bed, and soon fell asleep. The next morning, Colton woke up to sunlight streaming through the window and his wife asleep beside him. After kissing her forehead, he got out of bed to check if his friends were awake. He wandered into the kitchen and found them gathered around the table, enjoying bowls of cereal.
Classic Zach, still raiding my pantry like we're in high school.
Food.
Colton opened the pantry to grab a box of cereal, but as he did, the Uno deck flew out and landed perfectly on the kitchen table, cards flawlessly stacked, with 7 cards dealt for each player.
How is that possible? It dealt itself and shuffled itself. That's insane.
I told you it's cursed.
Play me, a voice emanated from the deck.
No way, we don't want to play anymore.
The lights flickered ominously and a lightning bolt struck the kitchen counter.
Play me?
Fine, we'll play, but if we lose, you have to spare our lives.
With that, Colton, Zach, Isic, and Kris gathered around the kitchen table, their apprehension palpable as the game began.
This won't end well.
Colton muttered, fear creeping into his voice.
As the game of Uno commenced, the sinister deck unleashed a wave of animosity, enveloping Isic, Zach, Colton, and Kris in its dark grip.
Draw 74.
Colton declared, glaring at Zach. You're the worst, Zach retorted, his voice escalating.
You're a shell of a man, settling down with your wife and adopting a kid like a total loser. Back in high school, you were a free spirit. Now you've shackled yourself to some woman and surrendered your very soul to fatherhood.
Colton shot back.
What about you? You're just a clueless weatherman. What kind of pathetic job is that? You sit around with a bunch of scientists predicting weather patterns for the week, only to relay it to people who don't even care. Nobody watches the Weather Channel anymore. They check their phone apps instead. No wonder your paycheck is a joke. Oh yeah? You're a therapist. Probably one of the lamest professions out there. All you do is listen to people whine about their problems and spoon-feed them solutions when they should just learn to handle their own issues.
Colton's face flushed with rage.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with professional help. I genuinely enjoy assisting my clients. They're incredible individuals. How dare you talk about them like that?
You two are ridiculous. I actually have a respectable job. I'm one of the top tech experts for the CIA. You both are just pathetic.
You sold your soul to the government, Isic. That's hardly something to brag about. Nobody likes the government.
The room erupted into chaos, with everyone hurling insults until Colton's wife, Emily, burst into the fray.
Enough! Can't you see this game has warped you? You two were friends and now you can't stand each other. What on earth happened?
It's the curse I've been warning you about. This game is filling us with a dark hatred. We need to fight back.
But how?
We need to exorcise the evil spirit from the deck, but to do that we must lure it out into the real world.
Colton asked incredulously.
How do we trick this malevolent soul into joining us? There's one scent that ghosts can't resist. Homemade spaghetti and meatballs. What are we waiting for?
Colton exclaimed, springing into action. He grabbed a large pot from the cabinet and set it on the stove.
I'll whip up my secret sauce. It won't be able to resist.
Colton spent the next 5 hours in a culinary frenzy, crafting the best spaghetti and meatballs he could muster, hoping to entice the lurking spirit. Finally, the pot was ready. He gently placed it in the center of the table, right beside the cursed deck. Now we wait, Kris said, his heart racing. A ghostly figure materialized above the table, casting an eerie shadow that sent chills down their spines.
Who dares summon the Uno demon into the mortal realm?
The spirit intoned, its voice a chilling whisper. Its gaze fell upon a pot of spaghetti simmering nearby. It exclaimed, "Yummy!" With an ethereal swoosh, the spirit hovered closer to the pot, its translucent form beginning to devour the noodles with an insatiable appetite.
We need to get rid of it. Colton, where's your largest knife?
His wife, Emily, quickly opened a child-proof cabinet and produced a large, menacing steak knife, one that looked like it belonged in a butcher's shop. Colton grasped the knife and lunged at the spirit.
You can't kill me. I'm too fast for you. You summoned me to end the curse, but that's not happening.
Before the spirit could vanish into a wisp of smoke, Zach, acting on instinct, snatched at its neck.
Let me go, you bastard! Not a chance. We won't let you harm anyone. We're ending this card game with everyone alive. You think a steak knife is enough? You'll need something much more powerful, but you'll never find it. And I'll never tell you what can truly end me.
Suddenly, inspiration struck Colton.
Zach, hold on to it. I have a plan.
He dashed into the next room and grabbed the phone, dialing a familiar number.
Mr. Rents! He shouted as soon as his old teacher picked up.
Colton? It's Saturday. What's so important?
Do you still have the van?
Of course. Amy let me keep it after I retired, but why do you need it?
We need you to bring one of your explosive Mountain Dew bottles. It's an emergency.
Explosive what? I'm retired. You're a respected therapist now. Zach's a weatherman. Kris has a lawn care business. Why would I get involved in this?
Mr. Rents, just get over here. We don't have time for this. We're in danger.
What's in it for me? He asked skeptically.
If you come, we all live. If you don't, we're done for. Now hurry.
Reluctantly, Mr. Rents hung up, grabbed the keys to the van from his safe, and jumped into the blue vehicle. He revved the engine and, with a roar, sped off towards Colton's house, crashing through the kitchen window and demolishing a countertop in the process.
Wow, you weren't kidding! Mark shouted as he spotted the ghostly figure Zach was grappling with. You guys are really in trouble.
He leaped out of the van and opened the trunk, retrieving a bottle of Mountain Dew. With a swift motion, he unscrewed the cap and hurled it at the spirit. An explosion rocked the kitchen, sending the ghost into a cloud of shimmering dust as the deck of cards scattered across the floor, lifeless and mundane.
You did it, Kris cheered. The deck is no longer haunted. We're safe.
Glad I could help, Mr. Rents replied, a grin spreading across his face. Want to grab some McDonald's like old times? He suggested, opening the back door of the van. Thus concluded the wild adventure of Wild Card, the Uno story. S5. Absolutely, they replied in unison, eager for a taste of nostalgia. With the engine roaring to life, Mr. Rents slammed the gas pedal, and they sped away from Colton's house, laughter echoing into the distance.